Hello everyone, this is Andrew. Welcome to Keen on America.
On July 4th, 2026, America will be 250 years old. An anniversary that will, no doubt, be greeted with a mixture of celebration, contemplation, and resignation. In Keen on America, Andrew talks not just about the American past and present, but also speculates on its future. What, Andrew asks, will be the 21st century fate of this now venerable American Republic?
Hello everybody, it is Monday, August the 5th, 2025. Judging from the newspapers in America, the news isn't particularly good, according to Thomas Friedman in the New York Times. The America we knew is rapidly slipping away, and it's not just progressives who are pessimistic. The Wall Street Journal, which is a more conservative newspaper, has a lead story today about how many American families are now overwhelmed by hardship. They're earning more, but in worse shape. The American dream, then, seems to be in crisis, perhaps existential crisis. My guest today had a book out last year on the American dream. It's called Experiencing the American Dream. It's by the Scottsdale, Arizona-based money manager, Mark Matson. He runs an $11.7 billion assets firm, which he founded in 1991. He's also a writer. He's been on the show before, and I'm thrilled he's joining us today. Mark, what's the state on August the 5th, 2025 of the American dream?
Well, Andrew, it depends who you ask. If you ask me, it's alive and well. So a couple things about the American dream. Traditionally, when people think about the American dream, they're thinking about material things. Hey, I got this house. I'm going to get a house, a white picket fence, 2.5 kids, 2 cars in the garage, retirement at 65. And while those things are part, definitely for some people, part of the American dream, the true foundation of the American dream is freedom, fulfillment, ability to live a self-determined life, the ability to go out and create wealth and prosperity. I think most people are approaching the American dream from the wrong angle. A lot of people approach the American dream as far as what's in it for me. What am I entitled to? What am I going to get? I think that's the wrong way to look at the American dream. For those people I know, myself and others that have accomplished the American dream, the question needs to be, what can I provide to other people? How can I be of service to other people and help them fulfill on their dreams? And if I help enough people do that, then my dream is automatically going to take care of itself. At the same time, I will concur with this, which is ever since COVID in the United States, it seems like people aren't working as hard. They're not as industrious. They don't have as much grit and determination. And there's kind of like the peanut farmer called it a malaise. Some people have a malaise about the future, and they've given up on it, and they're not out there crushing it. But in a world where so many people feel like they're entitled and feel like they shouldn't have to work hard to get what they want, the people that are out there to really hustle and really work hard and view work as its own reward, not just as a means to an end to get wealth, I think it's never been a greater opportunity for those people that are willing to create something amazing for other people.
So let me try and parse what you're saying, Mark. It seems to me as if you're suggesting that some of these stories about how American families are being overwhelmed are slightly exaggerated. People are, to interpret what you're saying, maybe a little lazy, a little entitled. People need to work harder and be more focused, and also be willing to give back. I'm not sure if those two things are contradictory or whether they go together. Is there then this malaise? Is that the biggest problem with the current American dream culturally?
Well, yeah. So the thing about the American dream, and I talk about it in the book, is that it's a way of seeing the world that empowers you to take action that you would never be able to take action on your own. When I was growing up, I grew up in the hills of West Virginia, in the hollers there, and we really did have abject poverty. My dad grew up, we had meat one day a week on Sundays. We usually had chicken. Other than that was beans or potatoes. He grew up in a shack, rather railroad. In the winter, the rats would come in the house to try to.
So those were one of the legendary hollers. You probably were a neighbor of J.D. Vance, were you?
Yeah, right. He was in Ohio, and I was in West Virginia. And so there was true destitute poverty. You know, when I had my first job, I was cleaning dog kennels. I was shoveling snow for people. I was cleaning dishes to get through college. My father told me, and it's the mindset that can create wealth and prosperity for you today. Number one, nobody owes you anything. And he beat that, not physically, but emotionally into my mind, that nobody owes you anything that you don't earn. You're not entitled to anything. No one's going to give you anything. You have to work to earn it. Number two is you have to provide value to other people before you're going to get wealth back to yourself. And number three, work is actually a virtue. I think a lot of people don't view hard work as a virtue. A virtue of shaping your character, of shaping how you see the world, of shaping how you see yourself in the world. And it's other focused instead of me focused. But there is real suffering going on in the world. I mean, there's no doubt about it. There are people that are having hard times finding jobs, but we have a 4% unemployment rate here in America. But we have millions, tens of millions of people that won't even go out and take the jobs. It's not that we don't have enough jobs. We don't have enough people that are willing to go take the jobs. They're waiting for $100,000, $200,000 job a year. The reality is that even if you're starting at the bottom job in a company, 48% of all of the jobs in America are not at big Fortune 500 companies. They're at small companies, small entrepreneurs, small business people. And if you'll go there and work really hard, starting at the bottom like I did, if you'll start at the bottom and work hard, those entrepreneurs and business owners will notice your talent. They'll promote you. They'll give you more options. They'll give you more money. They'll give you more opportunity. And it's all about how hard you're willing to work and how much wealth you're willing to create for the system, not the other way around. And if you have these, I think these articles do a terrible service to people. If you're a person who has the mindset that they're entitled to something they didn't create, then you make yourself a victim. And if I allow myself to be a victim and only look to the government or other people to give me things to save me from my victimhood, I'll never be able to take the actions and be empowered to create the American dream for myself. I believe the American dream is for anyone that comes to this country, in this country, that's willing to work hard and create value. And it's still very available, but it's not going to come easy. It's going to take work.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring up the article in the journal. And it focuses on children. The subtitle is nearly half of the kids in the US live in households below the middle class, and as inflation and the end of COVID relief hits working parents. So it's kids who are suffering. Tell me a little bit about, and for people who are just listening, I wish you could watch, because Mark has a huge American flag behind him. He looks like the epitome, or he's in excellent health. He's wearing a beautiful red jersey, and he's got the American flag behind him. So he is an advert for the American dream in every sense, ideologically, aesthetically. Mark, tell me a little bit about your family when you were growing up. Did you have brothers and sisters?
I did.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
I do. I have two brothers, one that works here. We have 80 employees here at the company. He works in.
This is Matson Money, right?
Yeah, at Matson Money. Yeah,
is he your partner, or you just gave him a job?
He's got some stock here, so he's a partner. His name is Matt, and he runs the technology department. We have a lot of technology, a lot of programmers here.
That's a cool name, Matt Matson.
Matt Matson, yep.
I bet he has to do a lot of jokes on that. And then you said you got one other sibling?
Yeah, I have another. Brian lives in Atlanta, and he's in the film and TV industry.
So is that, I mean, so you've got two siblings. Your father, you said you grew up in abject poverty in West Virginia. Your father pounded the idea of hard work and agency and all the rest of it into you. Was that typical? What about the other kids you grew up next to? Have they all become wealthy money managers or movie producers living in Atlanta?
No, they didn't. As a matter of fact, I came from a small town, and my dad got us out of the hollers when I was about 5, got us to Cincinnati, but we lived in a very small village called Green Hills, very, very low middle class. And when you look at the numbers, I don't know what the Wall Street Journal said, but one of the raps on America is that the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer. But if you look at the real statistic, it's just not true. It's just not true. If you compare from 40 years ago, today we have less people in poverty than we've ever had before. We have more people moving up to the middle class. We have the middle class is actually growing, but not just the middle of the middle class. The upper middle class is growing. And then the people that are entering the rich section of
Mark, I mean, people listening to this are going to be thinking to themselves, well, what about all these stats on whatever it is, the 6 or 8 wealthiest Americans being worth more than the rest of, the 95% of Americans, the multi-billionaires, the fact that, Elon Musk might become the world's first trillionaire. Those numbers are real, aren't they?
Yeah, well, of course they're real, but at the expense of alienating the liberals. The reason that they have so much money is because they provide more value than you do. The way I think there's a misunderstanding on how capitalism works. But people think capitalism is the people at the top stole money from the people at the bottom. And that's what a communist would teach you. And that's what a socialist would teach you. But in capitalism, the way that it actually works is the only way you get money in capitalism is if you create value for other people. People that buy the products and services from entrepreneurs and innovators who create something new, you may not like it that somebody's worth $1 trillion or worth $500 billion, but but you still want the cell phone, you still want to go to Amazon, you still want the Tesla. Well, the reason that they have money is because they provide something you want. They provide something of value. And as long as they provide something of value that the consumer is willing to spend money on, then you're the one making them rich. That's not how communism works. In communism, people work and create wealth and prosperity, and the government comes in, takes it from the rightful owner, the people that created it, and then distribute it to themselves and their power base.
I take your point, Mark. The American dream, though, as a concept, I think was invented in 1931 by James Truslow Adams, a historian at the depths of the Great Depression. Something has changed, though. The difference between the Jobs, the Musk, the Thiel, the Larry Ellison, and everybody else is growing larger and larger in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. The difference between in wealth between a CEO and a worker was much narrower, wasn't it?
Well, what you look at Rockefeller, you look at Edison.
Well, you had wealth.
You had people with massive amounts of wealth, but consider this too, Andrew, the overall quality of life. So think about the richest person on the planet 500 years ago, maybe the king or queen of France or England, something like that. So they're the richest person on the planet. They don't have air conditioning. They don't have a cell phone. They don't have penicillin. They don't have surgery. They don't have artificial hips.
They don't even have the internet, do they?
They didn't have the internet. Obviously didn't have the internet, right? They could literally get a scratch. They didn't have antibiotics. They could literally get a scratch on their knee and die within 2 weeks from an infection. The quality of life, if you only make $50,000 a year in America, you live better than the king or queen, the richest person on the planet 1,000 years ago. It is absolutely incredible. And this is where the other thing that my dad taught me about the American dream, it's about gratitude. There are men and women that have gone out there. The American dream is based on freedom of speech, freedom of property, freedom to own your own business, freedom to own your own house, without the interference from the government confiscating your wealth. If you're in America, you want to know why it's hard for people to create wealth? Look at the taxes. The marginal tax rate of 39% plus a state tax rate of, let's say, California or New York, half of everything you make is confiscated when you make it. Half. And then you pay taxes on your real estate. And then when you make a capital gain, if you do make a successful investment, then that's another 20%. And then when you die, if you have an estate, they take half of everything you make. They're taking half when you make it, half when you invest it, huge percentage when you spend it, and then half when you die. And you want to know where that wealth goes? It goes into the government, who creates nothing for anyone. And
well, let's go back. I take your point. Let's go back to the idea of the American dream. When Truslow Adams came up with it, he saw it as James Truslow Adams, he saw it as a sort of social system which gave everyone the same kind of opportunity. Is that the challenge, Mark, to create the opportunity? Because after all, if you come from a wealthy family in New York or Upper West Side or in San Francisco where I live, or maybe even in Scottsdale where you live, you have many more chances than your equivalent today in West Virginia or in Cincinnati. Is that the challenge of making the American dream fairer, to enable everyone to have the same opportunity? I take your point about working hard. Nothing should be given to people. But it seems increasingly hard if you are born into one of these families that are struggling. It's increasingly hard to make something of yourself, or is that wrong?
Well, I think that the myth is that if you're born rich, you stay rich. And if you're born poor, you stay poor. Statistics don't show that, do not bear that out. There are plenty of people that inherited all kinds of money, and they go out and try to build a business or go out and spend their money imprudently or invested imprudently, and they end up bankrupt. At the same time, there are many people born into the kind of poverty I was born into, but they have a parent that really reinforces that they are the master of their own universe, and if they work hard enough, they'll have success in life. I think it's the screen that your parents teach you, not the money that they give you or don't give you, that is going to be a bigger determinant. And I know, in a way, people that are born into massive amounts of money, they end up getting weak because they get dependent on people giving them the money instead of them earning the money. And if you look at a lot of the entrepreneurs today that made money, they started from nothing. Elon Musk wasn't born wealthy. Mark Zuckerberg wasn't wealthy. Bezos wasn't wealthy. These guys weren't wealthy. In fact, many of them even dropped out of school. They didn't even have enough money to finish college. So I reject the idea that if you're rich, you have an advantage. You might have a disadvantage, actually.
What about the luck involved, Mark? You clearly were lucky. You had a very engaged father. You haven't mentioned your mother. Was she around when you were growing up?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And they both installed this work ethic, this personal responsibility in you. But not everyone has that good fortune to get such a responsible, engaged parent. Some parents just don't care.
That's right. You got that one for sure. I mean, my grandfather was one of those people. My grandfather, who worked in the coal mine and also worked in the chemical factories, who died very, very young from lung disease from both of those activities, died a victim. He was extremely liberal. He was even, and this is why I tell people, it's not what you were born into, it's what you have in your head. He was even given, very smart guy. He was even offered the opportunity to go into upper management at Union Carbide, where he worked on the line. And he refused to go into management where he would have made more money. And obviously his family would have been better off, because he said, I'm not going to work for the man. I'm not going to be one of those people. I'm going to stay here on the factory floor and work until I die. And that's exactly what happened. So it's not how much your bank account is. It is to a large extent. Now, my dad looked at that because he definitely didn't have a father that built into him. My dad looked at that and fully rejected it. By the time he was 10 years old, he was an entrepreneur 3 times over. He sold newspapers. He got up at 3 a.m. He sold newspapers. And after the newspapers were gone, then he got out his shine box and he shined shoes. And then on Friday nights, he would go and sell cloverine salve to the coal miners as they came out of the coal mines. So he was already an entrepreneur, owned his own little teeny business by the time he was 10.
So you were very fortunate. I'm guessing your kids have a more material wealth than you had when you were growing up. How do you make sure that they don't end up entitled and spoiled?
That's a great question. I'm not sure I've mastered that question.
How many kids do you have?
I have 8.
I thought you had a lot. You've been busy, Mark.
Yeah, we're not even Catholic. It's something hard because when they have wealth, it does make it harder. I mean, when I was young, I would have to get up. We lived in a house that was not much more than 1,200 square feet. And then I would get up and my dad would send me out when it snowed. All the other kids were going sleigh riding and missing, getting when school was out for snow. And I would have to go, shovel their walks of my neighbors. So that worked.
You weren't happy at that.
Yeah. Yeah. And most of the time they didn't even pay me. They gave me maybe a cookie. But at the same time, you'll see in families, what raised the exact same way. I have some kids that are very industrious, that work hard. They see what their dad did. They see what their family did. They see what their parents did. And they're like, I want to be like that. And then I have other kids that aren't nearly as industrious. And they're struggling.
I hope they're listening. Have you told them?
I have. Oh, absolutely.
They know who they are. As he said, you've got an $11.7 billion asset firm. Your brother works for it. Would you let your kids join you? I mean, do you own the whole company?
I do.
So what's your policy when it comes to letting the family in? Clearly, you've let your brother in.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I told all my kids, and I still have 2 little ones because Melissa, my wife, had 3. I had 3. We met, fell in love, we got married, and then we had 2 more together. They're younger, Gage and Liam. They're 12 and 10. But I told all my kids this, which is, my name's on the building. I'll give you a chance. But because my name's on the building, you're going to have to work harder than any of the other employees that are here. There's not going to be any nepotism. And if you don't crush it, then I'll have to ask you to leave. And I've had probably 4 of my children have worked here. I have 2 that are working here now. The other ones I've had to let go.
You fired 2 of your own kids?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I just got.
And they're still talking to
you? Yeah. They're probably waiting for me to die to get the inheritance. But I told them, look, the business has to come first. There's a lot of employees here. Their families depend on the business working and functioning and being world class. So if you can't come into my business and make the business look bad and not carry your own weight, if you're willing to work hard, it'll be great. If you're not going to work hard, then I'm going to have to ask you to leave. And that's definitely happened.
Mark, one of the most controversial debates in Trump's America is about affirmative action. When someone comes to Matson money for a job, do you think to yourself, this person came from really tough upbringing, maybe from West Virginia or Kentucky, from poverty, and that they, if not deserve a better chance, certainly I'm going to give them more of the benefit of the doubt than the kid who grew up in San Francisco and went to Stanford or Harvard?
That's good. Yes. Well, here's the way I think about it. So I have this conversation with our employees frequently. What is the best way to get diversity in a company? Is it to force different ethnicities to work, or races to work, or types of people to work in positions? That's one take, not my take. Or, and I think this works better, assure the people that work here that we are making decisions about who work here based on finding the best possible person that we can find to fill that position. And if you do that, regardless of race or color, religion, what country they come from, we've had people that only have their green card that we've helped become citizens. If you come from that position, we're going to hire the absolute best person. Then you can look around the room when we have a team meeting like we did this morning, and you have 80 people in the room, and every single person knows that it wasn't charity, it wasn't entitlement, it was performance and the ability to get the job done that put every single person in the company. And we have amazing diversity. We have incredible diversity in the company. But not because it was forced, because it was always getting the best people in the right position.
Mark, you clearly have made mistakes in your life. Your first marriage didn't work out. What's the biggest mistake you've made in your life?
Oh boy. Well, that's a great question. For most of my life, until I was in my 30s, I was an atheist. Very anti-God. I went to Miami University, got a degree in finance accounting, but in the core curriculum, you take a lot of different psychology and religion and things. Took classes about how God didn't exist. Was dead set that there wasn't any God. Then you mentioned going through divorce, and I did. I went through divorce in my early 30s, and
which is hard, especially with 3 kids.
I had 3 kids. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to my business? I'm a bad father. How much time am I going to get to see my kids? I was in a hotel room. I was talking to a buddy of mine, and I was really upset. I was crying. I was depressed. He said, well, how's it? He said, look at those 4 walls. And I said, yeah. He said, well, see that? He said, you know what that is? And I said, no. He said, that you trying to run your own life. And he said, how's it working out? And I said, not too good. He said, well, why don't you do this? Why don't you hit your knees and pray your first honest prayer of your whole life? And I did. And we prayed together. And in an instant, I went from there is no God, I live in a world with no God, to I live in a world with a God. And that screen from going from alone, scared, no hope, to not alone and having hope and feeling loved and feeling, like there is a higher power and I'm not him or it. It changed everything. It changed my whole life. And I wish I had done it sooner, but I'm glad I did it when I did it.
So is the American dream, is it by definition perhaps religious rather than secular in your view?
I don't think so. I think we have a way, we say that the American dream is for everybody, regardless of religion, regardless of politics, what side are you on, regardless of immigration or not immigration. I even think that the American dream is good for the rest of the world. I think the American dream, the ideals of the American dream should be spread globally because it creates a high quality standard of life and it creates freedom. I believe that human beings at their very soul yearn for freedom, not tyranny. And the freedom is the freedoms that we have here that people have fought so hard for: the freedom of speech, the freedom of property, personal property, including your own business if you want to create a business, the freedom of religion. There's a lot of, if you read the Communist Manifesto, one of the first things they want to kill off is all religion. They don't want religion. The freedom to use your money to create happiness, your own view of what happiness is. The ability to, in capitalism, we're in America, by the way, we are the most generous country in the world. We create more prosperity and more wealth and give more wealth to charities than any other country in the world. For a large country.
Why is that?
I think we're very caring and loving. And look, capitalism leaves gaps. Capitalism isn't perfect. It doesn't solve everything. Yes, it creates a high quality of life. But for example, there is legitimate slavery going on in the world right now. There are children that are being abducted There are children that are being sold into slavery from their parents that are in third world countries. And those children are being abused sexually. They're being trafficked. And look, and a person with a heart, that with a soul, is looking at that going, wow, if I have extra money here, I'm going to take money and I'm going to try to help people in the world that are literally slaves. And I'm going to help in most of the world. If you're born with a cleft palate, you stay with the cleft palate your whole life. For $250, you can fix that. People are starving. People are dying of malaria. I mean, there's so many great causes to get behind to help other people. And because capitalism creates capital in excess of what people's standards of life are, they look to give that money to charities and make the world a better place. And I think that speaks to the ideals of the average American. So I'm not nearly as pessimistic as the Wall Street Journal. And here's the other thing too, Andrew, and I think all the listeners could agree with this. The way that you get people to turn into your news station or read your blog or read the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times or any of that is through fear, because fear captures eyeballs, and they need your attention to sell you products. And that's how they get paid. And I think that if you realize that the media is not there to help you or make your life a better place, but to actually capture your attention, stress you out, create stress and anxiety and fear for you so that they can make money off of you, you can start to read some of these bylines and headlines with a little bit of skepticism.
I'm guessing, Mark, your favorite letter is M. Your name is Mark Matson. You're a money manager. Your brother is Matt Matson. So everything is M, including, of course, money. And that's your day job, is investing other people's money. You've got $11.7 billion in assets. So let's try and get some useful advice from you on the money front. What's the state of the investment? What's your take on what seems to me, at least as a non-professional observer of Wall Street, there seems to be somewhat of a boom. Are you bullish or bearish on Wall Street?
Well, and by the way, my wife's name is Melissa too, so there's another M.
All the M's.
Well, here's the way I want people to think about investing. Investing is long term, so you're talking 20 or 30 years. It's futile to think of. When people usually say, "Are you bearish or are you bullish?" They're typically what they typically mean by asking that is, can you make a prediction here in the next 6 months, year, 10 days of where the market's going to go? And what I want investors to know is that anyone that tells you that they know with anything like certainty or probability what the market's going to do next is just full of it. Markets are perfectly random and unpredictable. All of the knowable information is already in the price today. Therefore, only random or unknowable information is going to change the price tomorrow. So anyone that, and I go on, Fox Business and I go on other news shows and they investing shows and they want to forecast. You can't forecast. Now, we know that we don't know where the next 20% is going to be up or down, but we know historically the next 100% is historically always up. So if you're a long-term investor, then you can forget about trying to predict the short term. But over the long term, you know that the markets are up. The other thing that you want to do as an investor is you want to be extremely well diversified, not just in the biggest 7 stocks, the Magnificent 7, the NVIDIA, the Apples, the Microsoft, the Amazon. You want to be Tesla. You want to be diversified into over 70 countries with over 20,000 holdings, because no one can tell. For example, this year, U.S. stocks are up in the ballpark of 3 to 6%, but international large stocks, value stocks, are up 24%. And most people miss that because they become so myopically focused just on the U.S. market. So equities long term, stocks long term, which is also the foundation of capitalism, by the way. And that's what creates all the jobs. That's what creates all the great products and services. That's what creates the returns on equities. And that's what even pays for our government. So equities are the greatest wealth creation tool on the planet, but they have to be owned long-term without the speculating, gambling, and market timing that most people try.
You've introduced finally another M word, myopic or myopia. What's your take on crypto? That's the C word, of course. A lot of people are very skeptical. It seems to, the price of Bitcoin goes up and up and up. Are you at all concerned, Mark, that that's where the bubble is?
Well, I'm not one to predict bubbles, but here's what I can tell you about Bitcoin. When you say skeptic, I'm one of them.
You're not an owner of Bitcoin?
No, absolutely not. Here's why. So when you own a stock, you own a claim against a company. You own a piece of the company. When you own a bond, you own a company that's a promise to pay you back, or a government that's promised to pay you back with the ability to either tax or generate revenue. On Bitcoin, on the other hand, I think it's all based on the bigger fool theory. P.T. Barnum said there's a sucker born every second or every minute. I believe him. The thing with Bitcoin is you're not buying a company, so there's no assets, there's no intellectual property, there's no ability to earn revenue, there's no promise from a corporation or a government. So what you're doing is you're buying nothing. There is nothing there. So the only way it goes up is if someone is even more gullible and willing to pay a higher price for nothing than you actually paid. And I think it's a disastrous form of speculation. It's right up there with tulip bulbs and the South Sea bubble. When or if it busts, who knows? But I know that long term, the thing that creates value is real equity and real substance. And there's no substance or equity there. It's all smoke and mirrors.
Very wise, and it's nice to have a money manager make such a common sense point about crypto. Does it concern you, though, that the banks are beginning to buy into it? The current administration or the president seems to be committed to it. Is that one way that the greater fool theory is going to only compound the bubble?
I think that one would want to look to history. History might not always repeat, but it rhymes. 2008, 2009, remember the banks thought all this real estate out there was worth all this money. And there was actually real buildings, at least. And they bet on all this real estate. And then 2008 and 9, you had the massive real estate crash and the credit crash. And you had massive banks like Lehman Brothers go under, $690 billion gone in a week. And people forget how fragile the economy can be. So the fact that banks are dumping money in this, or BlackRock, the president, I supported Trump. I support many of the things he talks about. I wish he would leave this alone. This is a conversation he shouldn't be involved in. I don't think he's right about this. Number one, it's not a currency. Try to take your crypto wallet to the mall this week and try to buy something with it. It's not a currency. It doesn't have liquidity, and it's highly volatile. You can't have an asset that's supposed to be a currency that can be 40 to 50% volatile in a day. So it's not a great asset. It's speculating and gambling. It's not a currency. It would be far better off for these big banks and our current administration to say, look, we're staying away from this. We're not betting on this. And don't open a company where you can make money on the side. You be the president. Yeah, you have some real estate stuff. That's how you made your billions. It's okay to focus on that, but don't hunt down money like this. I don't like it.
Well, I hope Trump is listening and watching. I'm sure he will take your advice to heart, Mark. By the way, did you get the 2008 bubble? Did you see it in advance? The real estate crash?
No. Bubbles are only widely are knowable after the fact. So what do you do if the reality is that you can't predict the crash? Now, there's always somebody predicting a crash. So they'll always say, well, I was right. But if you go back through the last 10 years, they predicted 15 of the last 2 crashes because they're always predicting a crash. So the thing to do is, once you build your portfolio, what we did do, for our clients, we have about 70% equities and 70% equities, 30% fixed income. When the crash happened, the market was down. Large stocks were down about 55%. So what we did is we rebalance every quarter. So when that crash came, we sold the fixed income, bought the equities while they were low. And then when they came raging back, of course, then the clients have more money in that asset category. You're always wanting to pick your portfolio and then rebalance it, systematically selling the thing that's relatively high, buying the thing that's relatively low, and then staying disciplined over an entire lifetime. That ensures that you don't have to try to predict the future or predict what's coming next, but you're always keeping your portfolio rebalanced. That ensures that you're selling the highest asset category, you're buying the lowest asset category, which is, of course, the opposite of what everybody does.
And that, of course, is the American dream. Discipline, self-discipline. Mark wrote, Experiencing the American Dream. How to invest your time, energy, and money to create an extraordinary life. That extraordinary life, I think, depends on self-discipline. Mark, you're clearly very self-disciplined. Congratulations. I'm not sure I want to congratulate your kids, especially the ones that got fired by you, but maybe they'll go out and get another job somewhere else.
Let's hope.
Great to have you, Mark. We'll get you back. Fascinating conversation. When crypto crashes, we'll have you back on to explain what's happening.
I would love to be there.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Andrew. My pleasure.